do today is to push us to think about congressional procedure in a little bit more of a capacious way. I want to argue that the study of congressional procedure shouldn't just be about whether and how rules and procedures shape outcomes. That restrictions placed on the reconciliation process by the Senate's Byrd Rule, which limits what you can do in a reconciliation bill, have had consequences for the kinds of policies that have been adopted through the process. Congress was in part trying to solve a collective action problem. So individual congressional authorizing committees were not interested in making cuts to the programs that they oversaw. Part of the Congressional Budget Act, Congress developed a mechanism that could force them to do so using the reconciliation process. I want us to think a little bit differently about the relationship between procedure and partisanship. I want to think about how procedures can facilitate partisan conflict. The second place where we see procedures structuring partisan conflict is in the budget process in both the House and the Senate. Certain components of the budget process operate under different procedures in both chambers that have made it a really attractive place to hash out partisan debates. But this is an interesting place where the existence of a certain set of procedures can help us define a universe for investigating how a party prioritizes some issues over others. And if we're going to think about the relationship between procedures and policy outcomes, we should also be thinking about how the chamber is organized to incentivize certain people to gain knowledge of those procedures, or, in some cases, to not spend the time learning about them. But as I've laid out today, in the contemporary Congress, where there's less and less substantive legislating, it's equally important to think about how procedure affects the legislative process in other ways. We're obviously in a moment where there's a lot of attention to those issues. We're also in a period of high partisan conflict, and the desire to have that play out in the procedural places where it can has implications for how much Congress is able to accomplish it.